Let's look at the war gear of the Knight Despoiler. We got a bunch of cannons, missile pods, autocannons, a Reaper chainsword of course, Titanic feet, and a warp strike. Wait, Titanic feet? Today's faction focus is on Knights of the Chaos variety, and they're about as fear-inducing as you would expect. In this case, what's most intriguing, beyond the rules themselves, is seeing how they compare to their noble counterparts. Let's take a look. Their army rule is Harbingers of Dread, and I gotta say, I like this ability so much more. 10th edition's army abilities thus far are far superior than 9th's, which more often than not provided your armies with over-convoluted buffs that you had to turn on or off over the course of a game. And the new 10th edition iteration of Harbingers of Dread is no exception. Simply, from Battle Round 1, you have the Despair Aura, causing enemy units within 12 inches of one of your units to subtract 1 from the roll when taking a Battle Shock or Leadership test. And from Battle Round 3 onwards, you also gain Doom and Darkness. When attacking a Battle Shock target, your attacks have +1 to wound, and enemy units which are Battle Shocked attacking your units must subtract 1 from their hit rolls. Comparing this rule directly to Code Chivalric, we can see the Imperial Knights are more flexible, as they have an option between 2 sets of abilities instead of just the singular focus of causing dread. Though somewhat similarly to Doom and Darkness, they need to wait to unlock the perk associated with their deed. Looking at these abilities in this vacuum, it seems there is more value to be gained from the Imperial Knight's Oaths from the jump, granting either rerolls for 1s to hit and wound, or more movement and bonuses to advances and charges. To me, the allure of making Battle Shock more likely to fail is less attractive than a straight-up efficiency or mobility boost. But I'd like to think that since Battle Shock does affect scoring potential and enemy flexibility, it may prove to be as valuable once the full context of 10th edition is understood. And there is always the possibility there is more to the Chaos Knights kit, which is not shown here, which further impacts the direction of this design. Doom and Darkness, though, feels far more comparable. Where Imperial Knights gain command points for completing their deed, all Chaos Knights gain a hefty defensive and offensive bonus against targets which are Battle Shocked, which is all the more likely to occur thanks to their Despair Aura. Also noteworthy is that Chaos Knights are guaranteed to always gain their bonus by Battle Round 3, and when we look at the Imperial Knights' deeds, that won't always be the case. Their detachment rule provides them another aura, Forged in Terror, which forces all units within 12 inches to take a Battle Shock test if they're below their starting strength instead of being below half strength. And again, comparing this directly to the Imperial Knights detachment rule, Indomitable Heroes, we get a very similar comparison where the Imperial Knights receive a more immediate, tangible benefit. Altogether, we can see here our first morale, or I guess I should say terror tactic-oriented toolkit, as it looks to be much easier for Chaos Knights to ensure Battle Shock is a possibility on any unit once they're within 12 inches thanks to Forged in Terror, and then that Battle Shock becomes more likely thanks to Aura of Despair. And when reaching Battle Round 3, your army of God Machines gains a very potent bonus against any units which are Battle Shocked. Our first unit on preview is the Knight Despoiler, and yes, it has Titanic feet. But I want to importantly point out it's no longer a de facto profile which makes a surplus of high quality attacks. Instead, it's just a tasteful profile for being unarmed, or I guess, not being armed with melee weapons. Looking at its profile, it seems fairly in line with the Imperial alternative, though our only point of comparison is Canis Rex, and I think it's a safe bet that the 5+ leadership is something that is exclusive to him, and not an across-the-board benefit for Questoris Knights. Looking at the weapons on the data card, we can see a broader range of the Knight's war gear. The Despoiler Battle Cannon looks to be the same as the Rapid-Fire Battle Cannon shown on the Imperial Knights preview, which indicates to me Despoiler is a distinctive term for flavor, not likely one that will alter stats. So Imperial Knight players will most probably be able to use the same weapons we see here. The Despoiler Gatling Cannon looks immense, with 18 shots and keeping its offensive stat line of 9th edition. And the Thermal Cannon. My god. It's lost a bit of range, but has gained more strength, and its Melta bonus has gone from D6+4 to D6+6. Though it has lost D6+2 as its standard damage characteristic. I think it's a little noteworthy, as I imagine this is the ceiling of the game's Melta weaponry, and it indicates that the design philosophy for Melta, even on this Knight-grade weapon, maintains D6 damage when outside of the danger zone. One last thing before moving on. I want to point out that the Hellstorm autocannons now have anti-fly. This is important, as I believe there needs to be some trade-off for giving units jump packs and wings. I've always maintained that just increasing points isn't enough. There needs to be something to lose mechanically. And now at the very least, it seems GW is considering making units which fly more vulnerable to certain types of weaponry. Over on its abilities, we have a supportive one, the Dread Dominion Aura, which grants nearby war dogs a +1 to their battle shock tests, and Seething Hatred, granting each time this model is selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll one hit or wound roll. It's a flavorful ability, echoing the Laylo the Tyrant's oath of their noble past. The article also explains that, compared to the Imperial Knights, the Despoiler Wardog buff relationship only flows downwards, but affects multiple war dogs, while the Questoris Armiger Bondsman abilities is bidirectional, but only affects the paired units. Or at least that's what it seems to suggest. We then got a datasheet preview of the exclusive Chaos Knight kit, the Knight Abominant. It uses the same base chassis as the Despoiler, though it has a less flexible but unique armament. The Volkite Combustor has some suitably scary mortal wound potential, and I'd like to highlight here again, we can see on a Knight grade Volkite weapon the AP remains at 0, demonstrating that the stats which characterize Volkite weapons remains intact, even at the extremes of the Knight Abominant. The big utility on this unit is that it's a Psychic Knight, though it does not have any Psychic Witchfire ranged weapons. Instead, the Knight Abominant has Vortex Terrors. At the start of your shooting phase, choose a model within 12 inches and force a Battle Shock test, which affords you yet again another opportunity to apply Battle Shock to your enemies. I think this is a very useful ability, as if you manage to take away scoring potential before you've had your turn to do your attack activations, it frees up your knights to wreak havoc elsewhere. Its other psychic ability is Warp Storms, which can deal mortal wounds to each enemy unit within 9 inches, which occurs at the end of your movement phase. And with mortal wounds overall seeming to be less accessible, having easy access to them is certainly a win. On the weapon preview, we got the Desecrator Laser Destructor. It's about as potent as you'd expect from a giant laser cannon held by a knight, and it's fairly comparable to the Heavy Laser Destroyer of the Space Marines Repulsor Executioner. While it does have one less point of damage, it has a better strength, a better innate ballistic skill, and the all-important 1 extra attack. We also get a Warp Strike Claw on preview, which is weird, because it was already visible on the Knight Despoiler's data card previewed in this same article. Just scroll up, it's the same thing. Feels like padding to me. And in the Stratagem Spotlight, we have a 1 command point stratagem available to the Traitoris Lance Detachment. It's used at the start of your shooting or fight phase, allowing your war dogs to gang up on a single target. Select 2 or more war dog units and an eligible target available to all of them. And all of those units which attack that selected enemy have sustained hits 1. And if the target is battle shocked, hit rolls of 5+ score a critical hit. Which makes me wonder if war dogs have access to lethal hits in a similar manner as the Imperial Armigers have sustained hits. Or perhaps access to other rules which also play off of scoring critical hits. And that's a wrap on this faction focus. I liked it quite a bit. Army and detachment rules? Check. Providing enough context to demonstrate the designed playstyle for the faction? Also check. And we got a better demonstration of the interaction between little and big knights, which can't be said about the Imperial Knights preview from last week. So in that regard, I'd give this one a 7 out of 10. But I want to hear from you. What do you think about this faction focus?